If you think workplace conflict is something to avoid like the plague or hand off to HR, Nadeen Sivic wants you to think again. In this episode, Australian Nadeen shares her views on conflict as a natural, messy part of everyday work life that leaders are somehow expected to do well, but no one ever teaches managers conflict mastery. We talk about boardroom brawls, execution mosh pits, and wearing summer tires on snowy roads, all while trying to survive your next Teams meeting. Let's dive in. Nadeen, it seems to me that you believe we're thinking all wrong about conflict at work. Tell me more.
Okay, I do believe that we're thinking wrong about conflict at work. I think traditionally we have looked at conflict as a big bang event, and we've conditioned ourselves into believing that, the workplace should be harmonious and perfect all the time, and that conflict is more of an admin place to be. So it's a HR form to fill in. Hopefully not, but it can end in people exiting in tribunals and all sorts of things. And as a result, it comes with a lot of discomfort, and we don't really like dealing with it. We like to tuck it away in a corner and say, well, that's where that lives, and let's just get on with the rest of our day. And I don't believe that that's probably the right way to look at it.
Okay, it prompts the question, what's a better way to think about conflict at work?
Well, I think we live with conflict. I think it's a natural part of the human state. And conflict actually comes from this law of contrast that exists all through our universe. And if we look at every object in the planet, everything exists in contrast to each other so that we can see and recognize what it is. Yeah. So if we talk about things, we've got color, so we've got depth and light and dark and texture and smells. And we're given the five senses to navigate that through the world. The best analogy I can come up with, the way that we should look at conflict, or the way I certainly look at it, is the tire and the road analogy. So if we look at a tire and a road, these are two very, very different objects. We have a tire that has a different purpose and a different texture, and a road as well. Now, for the manager, navigating the tire on a road should be about the skill between the association of the tire and the road. If you've got a summer tire with a nice, beautiful, perfect asphalt road, everything's hunky-dory. But of course, we know sometimes that that's not always the case. So sometimes we'll find ourselves driving a car that we've got a summer tire on, and then it starts snowing. And we think, well, how am I going to get out of this? And the idea is to be able to recognize those signs early doors so that you can say, right, I've got to bring a different set of skills to the table here, rather than just leave it and go hope for the best. And then, of course, slide off into a ditch and away we go. Yeah. And that's not what we want. And that's how I see conflict as part of our day, not a big bang event.
Lovely. And so it is just an everyday part of life, an everyday part of conversations, an everyday part of every meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
So, that seems different to norm. Why do you think we're so stuck on that older, that former way of thinking about conflict?
Well, I think we do leadership very well. And I think we focus our attention on, when you go into these large corporates, there's a lot of training and coaching and mentoring around the people dynamics and the team dynamics as you get up through the senior ranks. But the poor managers that are left in the execution mosh pit, it's a sink or swim situation, more or less. And a lot of them, God bless their hearts, they're just thrown in with an employee handbook and how to fill in a status report and hope for the best. And then, of course, they get in there and a few weeks in, all of the people stuff comes up. Yeah. And well, what am I going to do with this? Not actually recognizing what they're dealing with now is conflict, contrast, and friction. So what we really need to do is take the management and look at that pool and say, how do we give them the tools and the habits so that they can learn all the team dynamics and the beautiful people dynamics and make that synergistic with their management function, so that they're not just writing status reports and ignoring all the stuff that is actually causing silent, compounded, delays in delivery and reductions in quality.
Oh my God. So say that again. So the three things that they need to focus on are there's contrast.
So we have contrast. Usually it starts with contrast. So every human is in contrast. We're all different. We're all little, jelly beans in a bowl. So we start with contrast. So learning how to manage it at that contrast stage where we've got the different personalities, the different approaches, beliefs, etc. That's where the power is. So we want to prevent instead of react at the end. So we have contrast. if unmanaged, it can turn into friction, and friction's okay. But if you say the wrong thing at the wrong time or say nothing at all, then it can actually fester. And at work, what we find, because it's not okay to kind of, tops off and get into the fisticuffs in an office, it will fester, not that we haven't seen it, right? But it'll fester, right? It will just sort of go underground in a very passive way, and then it will start to manifest in ways that we haven't seen before. And then we'll see things like weaponized delays and little backhanded compliments. Suddenly, you've got this little conflict kind of eroding slowly in the background. So it's from contrast to friction to conflict.
To conflict. And so one of the pieces of language I use a lot, and I see it in work, is boardroom brawling. And it doesn't have to be boardroom, but just meetings where there's nothing but lack of appreciation of the contrast, lack of interest or curiosity about the contrast. And there's nothing but friction that just builds into something giant like conflict. So I really love your work. So if somebody is listening today and they've just heard the tiny tidbits of insight and it's resonating with them, and they want to do something to become more adept at conflict mastery, what can they do this week to start?
Okay, so I always start with, because I believe that you can't fix what you can't see. So we have to start with a little observational tool that I call it said, done, produced. It's nothing flash. It's not like a piece of technology. You don't need a lot of street smarts to use it. It's literally an observational skill where you look at a situation that you might have at work and you just take a little note and say what was said, what was done, and what was produced, and then look for the misalignment between those 3 points. And it's a tool that's very useful because it's not so much a leverage like, oh, you said you were going to do this and I'm going to wrap you now because you didn't. It's a tool to say, where do I need to shine a light to go a little bit deeper? And what's going on under the hood here? So it's a very good tool. So it's said, done, and produced. And all you need is your pen, a notebook, and your brain.
Said,
thankfully,
done, and produced.
Lovely.
And that's something that we don't need to put a link in the show notes to, because you've just told us exactly how to do it. So someone could do that in their next Teams meeting or the next Zoom meeting or the next face-to-face meeting. And it would just shine a light on, hey, this is working. There's no conflict here. Or I need to do something different and go a bit deeper. Yes, wonderful. Exactly. Thank you, Nadeen. If you enjoyed this, you might also enjoy my life satisfaction assessment. It's a 30-minute program where I guide you through a deep dive into 10 areas of your life to assess what's bringing you joy and what's bringing you down. I call it Derailed. It's a fabulous place to begin a Joy at Work redesign.